Soft morning light filtered gently through the blinds of the small office break room. The quiet hum of the coffee machine filled the space, mingling with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Lily stood by the machine, carefully pouring a splash of oat milk into her cup. Her face showed signs of fatigue, but also a calm determination. It was an ordinary morning just like any other, yet deep inside an uneasy feeling was creeping in, as if something was about to change. She took a deep breath, thinking to herself, 11 years. 11 years. I've poured my heart and soul into this company. I remember when I first started, so many uncertainties, so much to learn. I built the client services department from scratch, negotiated over 100 contracts, and trained the team. But now, why does my chest feel so tight? Why does today feel different? At that moment, the break room door swung open. Ryan walked in, the founder's son, freshly promoted as the new CEO. But instead of the warm smile or friendly greeting she expected from a colleague or a leader, his gaze was cold, distant, barely acknowledging her presence. There was no hello, no nod, just a look that made her feel invisible, like she was part of the furniture. Without a word of pleasantry, he said bluntly, "Lily, come to my office. Now." It wasn't a request, it was an order. Lily froze for a heartbeat. Her heart began pounding faster. What's going on? Maybe it's just a quick meeting, nothing serious, she told herself, trying to push away the growing knot of anxiety in her stomach. But something deep inside whispered this was no ordinary morning. She placed her coffee on the counter, wiped her hands, and followed Ryan out of the break room. Her steps were measured, but inside her chest felt like it was about to burst. The calm of the morning was shattered, replaced by an ominous weight pressing down on her. Once inside Ryan's office, he didn't even bother to sit down. He flipped through a stack of papers with a careless flick, eyes never meeting hers. Then, in a voice flat and devoid of any emotion, he said, "You're fired. We don't need lazy people like you dragging this place down." Lily stood rooted to the spot, stunned. Those words hit her like a punch. 11 years of dedication reduced to a cold sentence in seconds. Shock, confusion, betrayal all flooded her mind at once. She wanted to argue, to defend herself, to demand an explanation, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she forced a calm smile, hiding the storm raging inside. As she walked out of his office, head held high but trembling underneath, colleagues watched in silence, sensing something was terribly wrong. Some rose, ready to ask questions, but she shook her head slightly, a silent plea not to make this moment harder. Back at her desk, she packed up her things in quiet solitude. Memories flooded her mind, late nights, holidays spent working, calls taken through tears after a painful divorce. All the sacrifices made for this company, only to be discarded like she was nothing. Yet, strangely, anger hadn't come. Instead, a flicker of curiosity sparked inside her. Why now? Why so suddenly? And why with such cold certainty? Ryan's office was stark and minimalist. The sharp edges of modern furniture and cold fluorescent lights gave the room an uncomfortable chill. He stood behind his desk, flipping through a stack of papers with the kind of casual indifference that made the space feel even colder. Lily entered quietly, her heart still pounding from the tense walk down the hall. She glanced around, hoping to find any sign of the colleague she once knew, but Ryan's eyes never met hers. Instead, he looked through her as if she were invisible. Without preamble, he spoke again, his voice flat and unyielding. "You're fired. We don't need lazy people dragging this place down." Lily's mind reeled. Lazy? How dare he? Her mouth opened, wanting to protest, to explain. "I've been here over 11 years. I built this department. I've trained half the team sitting outside that door." But Ryan cut her off sharply, not even bothering to raise his voice. "That's not the point. We're moving in a new direction. People like you don't fit anymore." Lily's hands clenched at her sides, her breath catching. She fought the surge of anger and humiliation swelling inside, but she held her ground. Instead of shouting back, she forced her voice steady and calm. "I don't understand. Why now? Why me?" Ryan shrugged, uninterested in giving answers. "Doesn't matter. Effective immediately. Collect your things and leave." For a moment, Lily stood silent, stunned by the sheer callousness of it all. Years of loyalty and hard work thrown away without warning. She wanted to shout, to cry, to scream, but instead, a strange calm washed over her, a quiet acceptance laced with burning questions. She smiled, a small, deliberate smile that hid every storm inside. "Have a nice day, Ryan." Then turned and walked out, head held high, even though inside she was trembling. Outside the office, co-workers watched her pass, their faces etched with concern and confusion. Some took a step forward, ready to ask what had happened, but Lily raised a hand, shaking her head gently, a silent plea to hold back. Back at her desk, she moved with mechanical precision, packing up her things in the thick silence of the office. Her mind raced, the endless late nights, missed family dinners, even the moments she swallowed her pride to get the job done. Was it all for nothing? Yet, beneath the hurt, there was no anger, at least not yet. What gripped her was a deep, gnawing curiosity. Why would Ryan make such a reckless move? Was this just incompetence or something more? That night, sleep evaded her. The words echoed in her mind like a twisted mantra, lazy, dragging this place down. It didn't sit right. Something was off. And she knew the fallout from this decision was only just beginning. The quiet of Lily's apartment was a sharp contrast to the storm brewing in her mind. She sank onto the couch, eyes fixed on the ceiling, memories flooding in like an unstoppable tide. 11 years ago, she'd walked into the company as a fresh-faced newcomer, nervous but eager. Back then, the client services department was barely a whisper within the larger company. There was no team, no structure, just a handful of scattered tasks and a mountain of potential. Lily's voice echoed softly in her mind. "I remember the first big contract I negotiated, the long nights poring over documents, the endless calls to clients, the pressure to get every detail perfect. It was exhausting, but every win felt like a personal victory." She pictured the faces of colleagues she had mentored, bright-eyed juniors now grown into confident professionals. She recalled the long hours, the holidays spent working instead of with family, the phone calls taken with tears welling behind her eyes after a painful divorce. All those moments were for one purpose, to build something real, something lasting, she thought. "I gave this company more than I gave myself sometimes, and I believed in it like family." But now, the cruel irony was bitter. Years of sacrifice seemed to vanish overnight. It was as if everything she had built could be swept away with a careless decision. Lily's hands clenched into fists. Was all that worth it? Was I just a pawn waiting to be discarded? But beneath the doubt, a stubborn flame burned. She wasn't ready to be forgotten. Not yet. The next morning, Lily's phone buzzed unexpectedly. An unfamiliar number flashed on the screen. Hesitant but curious, she answered. "Lily, it's Mr. Cole," came the firm-aged voice on the other end, the founder of the company, the man who had hired her 11 years ago after just one interview. He sounded tired, frustrated, but with an unmistakable edge of authority. "I just walked into the office and I heard. Ryan fired you." Lily hesitated, her heart sinking again. "Yes, sir. It was sudden. No explanation. Just, you're fired." There was silence, then a sharp inhale. "Did he even read your contract?" Mr. Cole asked, voice laced with disbelief. Lily frowned, confusion deepening. "He's supposed to finalize the Kingswell deal today. He knows I'm the negotiator on that." Mr. Cole's voice grew serious, almost grim. "That contract has a clause I insisted on after our last acquisition disaster. You're not just any account manager, you're the only authorized negotiator for Kingswell. Without you, the deal can't legally move forward." Lily froze. The weight of those words crashed down like a wave. Ryan had fired her without knowing the very terms that kept the company's biggest deal alive. A slow-burning realization ignited inside her chest. The betrayal still stung, but now it was mixed with a fierce clarity. Mr. Cole ended the call abruptly, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Lily sat motionless, her coffee long cold beside her. She couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. After all this time, the company's future rests on me, and yet I was discarded like a forgotten file. But beneath the bitterness, a new resolve began to take shape. Ryan's mistake wasn't just careless, it was a doorway, a chance for Lily to take control to show what true leadership looked like. Lily didn't rush back to the office. Instead, she took time to breathe to gather her thoughts. She understood now that this wasn't just about a contract or a job title, it was about respect, trust, and leadership. The phone rang incessantly that morning, Ryan calling repeatedly the legal team, accounting, even reception. But Lily didn't answer once. She let the calls go to voicemail. Then came a message from Ryan, his voice strained and urgent. There was a misunderstanding. "We need you back today. It's urgent." But there was no apology, no sign of regret, only panic thinly disguised as politeness. Lily sat quietly sipping cold coffee, her mind made up. When she finally responded, it wasn't with a phone call. Instead, she sent a clear message: "I'll consider returning to finalize the Kingswell deal, but only if I speak with Mr. Cole directly first and under specific conditions." On the day she returned, Lily did not use the employee entrance. Instead, she walked through the main lobby like a guest, fully aware of the eyes turning toward her. This was no quiet return, it was a statement. The receptionist barely concealed her surprise. "Miss Harris, Mr. Cole is expecting you." The atmosphere in the office had shifted. Conversations hushed, heads turned. The building itself seemed to hold its breath. Mr. Cole waited at his office door, nodding as Lily approached. "Thank you for coming in," he said simply. Lily walked past him into the room, took a seat across the massive oak desk, and for the first time in a long time, felt in control. Mr. Cole sighed deeply. "I made a mistake giving Ryan so much authority too quickly. I wanted him to prove himself, but I didn't expect him to burn bridges before learning how to build them." His voice softened. "What he did was unprofessional and disrespectful. It jeopardized the deal we've been working on for months." Lily nodded slowly, the weight of those words settling on her shoulders. "I've reviewed the contract again. The clause is clear, only I can negotiate Kingswell. Without me, the deal falls apart." Mr. Cole's eyes met hers. "You didn't deserve what happened. I want to offer you your job back with full authority to finish this deal. Whatever conditions you need, we'll make them work." Lily's heart swelled with a mix of relief and determination. "I'll return," she said firmly, "but I want everything in writing, clear autonomy, and no interference from Ryan." He nodded without hesitation. "Done. And one more thing." Lily looked him straight in the eye. "This can't happen again. Not to me, not to anyone." The boardroom was polished and imposing, filled with sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. The Kingswell team had just arrived, a group of serious, sharp-minded executives from the Middle East. Lily took a moment to steady herself before the meeting, reviewing the final documents one last time. She knew this deal wasn't just important, it was critical. Months of preparation, countless negotiations, and a delicate balance of trust and respect had led to this moment. The Kingswell CEO was a no-nonsense man with sharp instincts. He valued trust above all else. Lily had studied his mannerisms, his business philosophy, even learned a few Arabic phrases to show respect. When she placed the printed contract on the table, translated carefully into Arabic, the CEO's eyes lit up with a rare smile. "You remembered?" he said warmly. "Respect goes a long way." As the meeting began, Lily spoke clearly and confidently. She navigated tricky questions, anticipated concerns, and built rapport with each member of the team. Outside the glass walls, Ryan paced nervously like a caged animal, his frustration growing with each passing minute. Mr. Cole stepped out briefly to intercept Ryan. Their muffled voices escalated quickly until Mr. Cole raised his hand sharply to silence him. Ryan's face flushed crimson with humiliation, and he stormed away. Inside, the meeting flowed smoothly. Lily's preparation and professionalism shone through. 2 hours later, hands were shaken and the deal was signed. As the Kingswell team departed, Mr. Cole approached Lily with genuine relief in his eyes. "You saved us," he said quietly. "I owe you more than an apology." Lily smiled softly. The company owes itself a leader, one who knows the difference between power and responsibility. That day wasn't just a victory for the company. It was a turning point for Lily, proof that resilience, preparation, and integrity can overcome even the harshest setbacks. Ready for Part 7. Just when it seemed the worst was over, Lily soon realized the fight was far from finished. Back at the office, subtle signs began to appear: misplaced emails, incorrect client information, sent out documents mysteriously altered. At first, these mistakes seemed like innocent errors, but as the pattern grew clearer, Lily's instincts screamed sabotage. Her suspicions were confirmed when she noticed that the emails originated from within the office network, specifically from shared machines assigned to Ryan's executive assistant. Ryan was no longer trying to fire her. Now he was quietly undermining her at every turn. Lily refused to be a victim. Instead, she meticulously documented every irregularity, every wrong email, every missed deadline, every unexplained delay. She started keeping a private notebook logging dates, times, and conversations in detail. Paper trails, she knew, were more powerful than raw emotion. One afternoon, as she passed the conference room, she overheard Ryan's voice inside. He was muttering about luck running out and taking control back. His tone was cold, calculating no longer the reckless youth, but a man carefully planting seeds of doubt and discord. Lily's blood ran cold not from fear, but from the icy precision of his tactics. That evening, she stayed late in the quiet office, staring out at the city lights, wondering how many more battles she'd have to fight just to keep doing her job. Then, breaking the silence, Mr. Cole appeared. "Still here," he said quietly, more like a concerned father than a CEO. Lily looked up, tired but resolute. "Protecting the company," she replied. He shook his head slowly. "I'm trying to protect both of you. But maybe it's too late for one." Their eyes locked in a moment, heavy with unspoken truths. Lily knew the war inside the company was far from over, but she was ready. A week later, Lily found herself sitting in a cramped temporary office, the audit committee's war room. The space was cluttered with stacks of files, glowing computer monitors, and a whiteboard filled with timelines and cryptic notes. It felt worlds away from the sleek boardrooms she was used to. David, the lead internal auditor, greeted her with a serious expression. "Thanks for coming in, Lily. We need to ask you some questions about recent irregularities, suspicious emails, altered documents, missing approvals, all traced back to shared computers, but signed with your name." A heavy weight settled in Lily's chest. She knew this was coordinated, a carefully crafted attempt to frame her. "I suspected sabotage," she admitted quietly. David nodded. "We've narrowed down the list of people with access. Patterns point to Ryan's inner circle, including his executive assistant. We aren't accusing anyone yet, but the evidence is mounting." Lily took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of the moment. She thought about the talented employees who had quietly left the company, young stars pushed out under murky circumstances. "Turnover isn't always what it seems," she said softly. "Sometimes it's forced." The next morning, Lily arrived early at the executive boardroom. Mr. Cole was already there, staring out the window like a man waiting for a verdict. David and 2 other auditors joined them, shortly bringing files and laptops. Minutes later, Ryan arrived late and smug, but his usual arrogance faltered as the discussion turned to the irregularities targeting Lily's work. David laid out the timeline and evidence. Ryan's face paled. His smirk began to crack. "You're reaching," Ryan spat. "She's just bitter about being let go." Lily met his gaze steadily. "You didn't fire me, Ryan. You sabotaged me, and you almost cost the company its biggest deal in years." Mr. Cole turned to Ryan quietly but firmly. "I gave you chance after chance, but you've torn down the people trying to build something real." Ryan's shoulders slumped. "I've failed you as a leader and maybe as a father." Lily spoke softly but firmly. "You can't lead someone who refuses to grow, but you can still lead this company if you choose to." For the first time since this ordeal began, Lily felt the heavy weight begin to lift. 2 weeks after the audit meeting, the atmosphere in the office had shifted dramatically. Ryan was gone, his departure quiet without press releases or lawsuits. Word spread like wildfire through whispered conversations and knowing glances. The arrogant smirk that once hung on his face was gone, replaced by silence. Lily didn't feel triumphant. Instead, she felt steady, like someone who had weathered a storm and finally breathed in calm air. Then came a call from Mr. Cole. He asked her to come to his office, closing the door behind them. Sitting across his desk, she saw a folder waiting for her. Inside was a promotion letter, Director of Client Strategy, an executive-level position reporting directly to him. Lily looked up startled. "I didn't ask for this," she said quietly. Mr. Cole smiled knowingly. "That's exactly why you deserve it." She hesitated but then nodded. "If I accept, I want to be clear on how we move forward. I don't want a title, I want to rebuild this culture the right way." He smiled warmly. "That's exactly what I hoped you'd say." That evening, in her new temporary office, Lily reflected on the journey. She had been underestimated, dismissed, sabotaged, but never defeated. She had refused bitterness, choosing instead to lead with integrity. Over the following weeks, she began reshaping the department. She reopened lines of communication, reinstated employees who had been unfairly pushed out, and created an anonymous reporting system to protect staff from retaliation. She made time for younger employees just starting out, many of whom had witnessed the chaos and felt lost. Passing by the glass wall of the boardroom where the Kingswell negotiation had taken place, she paused to remember the sabotage, the panic, and finally the triumph. That single deal had changed her career's course. But the real transformation happened the moment she smiled and walked out of Ryan's office refusing to beg. That was her true turning point, because she had learned the most valuable lesson, knowing your worth and never letting anyone take that from you. The office was quiet as Lily looked out the window, the city skyline glowing softly in the evening light. The tension she had carried for weeks was finally lifting. She allowed herself a deep breath, feeling the weight of the storm behind her. Her thoughts wandered back to the moment she was fired, that cold dismissal from Ryan, the shock, the betrayal. She recalled the long, sleepless nights spent questioning everything and the fierce determination that grew stronger with each challenge. Lily smiled softly, knowing this was more than a career story. It was a lesson for anyone who's ever been underestimated, disrespected, or cast aside. Sometimes life pushes us to the edge, not to break us, but to show us how strong we really are, she thought. Power isn't about titles or control. True power lies in responsibility, integrity, and respect. She whispered to herself, "Know your worth. Stand firm. Demand respect. Because when you do, not only do you change your story, you change the story of everyone around you." With that, Lily turned from the window, ready to face whatever came next, not as someone broken by the past, but as a leader shaped by it. Thank you for following Lily's journey. If her story resonated with you, share your thoughts below. Remember, your worth is your power.